music piracy happening in the late 90s with of course the launch of Napster, and of course I remember Kazaa and Lime and LimeWire and a whole host of others where you can just download music illegally. And then obviously Apple launches iTunes and kind of gets all the record labels on board for that. And it's because I think that the record labels thought we can't live our lives just in lawsuits. This is what this is what consumers want, and it also just made the record labels look terrible. I remember Metallica just as well. I remember Metallica doing some of the lawsuits against their fans, and it was a really crappy era, I would say, for kind of all kind of parties involved. And at the same time, but the record labels, I think, needed to accept we need to participate in digital, right? We need to participate in this world in digital music, not just physical music with CDs and records and tapes, but predominantly CDs. But we need to actually participate in this new digital era. How are we actually going to do it? Where we obviously protect our IP. I'd imagine, and then of course, Spotify comes along and, really almost as like an alternative to this existential threat, which is, piracy. But I don't know, for example, if Spotify was the first thing that kind of gets pitched to the record labels, they might, go, I don't know if they'd go, oh yeah, no, we're not going to do that. Why would we do that? Because our business model is so good. I mean, if you think about the record label's business model, it was unbelievable. I mean, you promote one song, you hope that song is a hit, and then you have a bundle of 10 to 15 songs or however many songs are on a CD. And then the only way the consumer can actually listen to that song apart from the radio is to actually purchase that music. So to purchase a full length album and pay, $20. And even with iTunes, with like a paying $1 for a single, that's still really, really, that still is a huge disruption to the kind of bundled album previous business model that the record labels had. And now you're introducing, $10 a month, $15 a month to actually then have the entire catalog of everything being able, having the ability to stream songs. So it was almost like a compromise in some ways, right? In that we have this existential threat and piracy. Here's the compromise in the Spotifys and the Rhapsodies and the iTunes and stuff like that in order to participate in this digital in the digital world, because we have this consumer pull and there's no escaping this consumer pull for it. And I do wonder what that looks like when it comes to other sectors, because I think it's really, really hard. I think it's really hard. Like something that I've been thinking about, and certainly your article was what triggered it was, you mentioned how ChatGPT right now is facing a lawsuit with New York Times, right? And they're using not just New York Times articles but other publishers as well, articles that they're using for and you search it and you don't know that it's from New York Times. You don't actually ever need to click to the website to New York Times or what have you, or to other publishers. And I remember going to a marketing conference back in, I think 2017, 2018, and Rand Fishkin, who is like a CEO, SEO and SEM legend, knows, really understands Google really well. And he's talking about how his biggest worry with SEO and SEM is that click-through rates are down, and that Google actually is emphasizing you wanting to stay on the platform than getting off the platform. Which in some ways, yes, you maybe know who the article is from, but if you're not clicking to the article itself, right, then that does diminish what you actually created. No different to what ChatGPT is going to. So kind of this was a problem that was happening before even AI was introduced, right? And I don't know, there has to be some type of compromise that happens, but I'm not even too sure what that compromise quite looks like in a lot of ways. Because AI or not AI, these types of things were happening previously.
You're right that like if I can distill it down to one thing, I would say it's like the inevitability of consumer demand. Like if you read that article, I talk a lot about like the supply side and the demand side on the consumer,
Yeah.
on these consumer companies, right? Like I feel like a lot of these AI companies right now, and I keep on bringing up the music companies, but that's just sort of the easiest example. I call them supply side companies, right? Where like you can go in there and you can create supply of more music. I think if you kind of look at history, like the companies like Spotify or whatever that have really disrupted their respective industries are where there's consumer demand that you honestly cannot ignore, which is why I call it like the inevitability of consumer demand. Because if consumers really want to just stream music for $10 a month, that is going to happen, right? Like regardless of what the record labels want to do, regardless of all your interests and your incentives.
Well, it may not happen, right? It may not happen, but what's the alternative? The alternative is piracy, right?
Piracy, right?
So that's the alternative. So we're going to introduce, $10 a month. That's kind of like the compromise per se with giving the consumers what they want, but at the same time still protecting IP.
100%.
IP
100%.